after many questions, I've been asked to do these undisguised now, so I don't give a shit. So it's undisguised. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and stuff. I hope you can fucking understand them now, because people are moaning.
Oh, you want me to carry on? Okay. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. My name's Will. I'm a real werewolf. I was captured by the army, and I'm going through my story, my autobiography. There's another 3 pieces to this story before this bit, so better go back and read that. Apparently somebody's interested in this shit. Anyway, the chief had asked me to talk about where I was from and stuff, and it was actually I was actually really gonna enjoy telling someone the truth. Well, sort of truthish. I kind of needed to. It was good to get it out there. It's the first time I've done it, and it's part of the reason why I'm doing these podcasts or whatever the videos or whatever they are. I don't know. Okay, so I said, to be honest, it's the life of a real fucking monster. I'm half wolf, and in my story, there's a lot of death and destruction and gore and lots of shit in this story. So if you're listening to this and you're upset by all that kind of stuff, I'd stop listening if I was you. I also tend to swear a bit, and I do like to murder women and children, and to be honest, I don't really have any moral compass. Well, that's what people say. I found that not caring about the consequences of my actions and not having any empathy or any of that emotional bollocks, it means I can just really do what I want. And to be honest, the thing I most want to do, it's my art form, is to hurt people. I just really like it. It's one of my favourite things to do. It's my favourite thing to do. It is my art to work with death and destruction and add a pinch of cruelty. I'm a latchitist. I want to create chaos. I want to just see what happens, how I can make things end. The story that I tell is not one that you probably understand, but I mean, I'll tell it anyway. I mean, I'm pretty fucking amazing, and everyone really should hear about it. You're probably gonna hear the most fantastic story of your life. You probably ain't gonna fucking believe it, to be honest, but it's the truth. And yeah, okay. My unreal name is Will the Beast. Get it? Willed the Beast, Wild Beast. Yeah, I'm not actually called fucking that, but I'm not telling you my name. That'd be stupid. For you less able thinkers, if you read it, when I write it down, it says Will the Beast, and I assume you can, That's obviously not my real name, but I promise you I'm not called Keith. I was born in 1974 in Birch Hill Hospital in Rochdale. And I came roaring and screaming into the world a red and bloody mess. Apparently I was an easy birth and I looked normal to the doctors, 10 fingers, 10 toes, but apparently I was quite hairy, but some of us are. If you don't know Rochdale is a town in the northwest of England that is famed for the beginning of the co-op shopping movement over in the UK. Not really a lot else, to be honest. Oh wait, there was an amazing singer in the 80s from there called Lisa Stansfield. These days it's known really for being the arsehole Shitsville of UK. It absorbs the scum and the not wanted from other parts of the country. A lot of the town is filled with those that have been booted out of council estates in other places for their behaviours. So you can imagine it's a fucking classy place. Rochdale's a former mill town. There were many miserable people spun cotton before getting crushed by heavy machinery or dying in childbirth or of cholera, or of just being a miserable northerner. Since then, it's fallen into a state of decline. In the last few decades, many of the now kind of empty mills have been demolished and are turned into flats, or just generally left to rot and fall back into a lack of use. Dereliction and junkification, not gentrification, is the name of the game in Rochdale. For most of my early childhood, I was living in a park called Spotland, quite close to the tops of the moors, as we call them, and Not quite mountains, but bigger than hills. Significant areas of bleak wasteland where there are lots of sheep. I mean, lots of sheep. Oh, and in our part of the country, it was not a pastime to shag the sheep. The local population of humans are actually easier to sleep with and they're probably less choosy than sleep. If you watch UK daytime telly shows, and you'll see the toothless morons that live in this once industrious town. They festoon the great shows like fucking Jeremy Kyle. The moors had once been covered in trees back in the past, and it was difficult to believe that when you actually see them. And you now see the heather and the rough grass that cover them. But the moors had once been forested. The trees had been cut down and had gone because people in the area needed more pastoral land for sheep and more wood for fires. They really need like big warm fires because it's really fucking cold and grim up north. As a child, I would love to go onto the moor in the autumn when they would swathe the land. This was when they would get set huge controlled burns of the dry heather and grass, and these burns would kill off any of the new shrubs or tree growth and would reseed the land with ash. So you get fresh grass and stuff growing. The burns were my first introduction to chaos and controlled chaos. The idea that we burn and destroy in order to make better. It was a risky thing to do, the burns, as sometimes the winds would change direction quickly and the fires would get out of control. This would often lead to damage of local buildings and would kill a few sheep and odd people. If I really tried, I could get all sorts of shit to happen and make it look like an accident. I was living on a lovely middle-class housing estate with parents who were seeking to be middle-class, surrounded by middle-class prats that thought themselves better than those chavs a mile down the road. If you're not British, then chavs may need a description. It's an acronym for council housed and violent. They fucking wear shell suits and caps. Equivalent, if you're Americans, urban rednecks. I don't know. The housing estate was at the top of a road called Ings Lane. Ings Lane was once a packhorse road that went over the tops and took traffic into the next valley. This was when donkeys and old women were main forms of transport from valley to valley in Lancashire and Yorkshire. The road had evolved through time and now had become a long, wide main artery through the suburban outskirts of Rochdale. Ings Lane snaked its way up onto the moors from the centre of Rochdale and hit the homes of the poorest bastards that lived in this shitty town along it. Below our superior middle-class zone for middle-class people was a council housing estate. It was a sprawling shite pile that was well known as a breeding ground for crime and delinquency. Above our middle-class zone, further up the road, were the homes of the posh people. This area was Lane Head, and my family always dreamed of buying a house up there. Why they would want views of a council estate, I never knew. When I was young, I noticed I was able to see and interact with things others could not. When I told my family about these things, at first they laughed and smiled along with these little childish hallucinations. It was amazing, the imagination of a young child. Eventually, they began to get a little bit disturbed by them and took me to the doctors. The doctors questioned me and they in turn got worried about my mental state, so I soon learned to shut the fuck up about the things I saw. Otherwise, I would never get off the meds that made me sleepy. I would always be on the special kids table in the school with the kids, those kids that blew snot bubbles and drank the paint. As a child, I was labelled as stupid, nasty and lazy. This was not really the case. Well, the stupid and lazy ones were probably not me. I think the problem stemmed from the coaching efforts of my posit, the wolf side of me. He taught me that no one could make me do anything I did not want to do. I'll get back to what a posit is in the future. Posit's like the wolf soul. He's a ghost like wolf that follows me around, and I absorb him to make him and me into the werewolf or the wolf. I'll get into further details in another fucking one of these podcasty type bullshit things. He told me I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to do, so they would try and get me to do something and I would just not do it. It was impossible. To tell me off was like trying to tell a brick wall off for all the effect it had on me, Even from nursery, my report home contained sentences like does not play well with others and stuff like that. The other kids did not approach me or interact with me from day one. I showed little interest in them, to be honest. Even at such an early age, they knew that I was something that should be left alone and not bothered. I was often intentionally cruel as at school. but was held back from anything deemed as too much by my ever-present posit. I wish people could have seen the huge wolf wandering around the classroom with small children. I'm sure it could have seen it may have affected their viewpoint on the choice of school. I was never frightened or scared, with my big best friend always reassuring me and telling me how to react and respond to any situation. I went to my first school in Rochdale. It was called Meanwood Primary School, and it was all about being mean. I'd been raised by parents who had no time to build any relationship with me. They only had time to make money to put food on the table. They worked so hard to achieve their middle-class status. It was the cost of the emotional well-being of their family. My father left the house before I woke up and returned home after I went to bed. The only time that I saw him was on the weekends when he was grumpy and tired. His building business was going well, but he filled the role there that anyone required. He was always fucking exhausted. He also came from a traditional manly background that meant that he was emotionally stunted, to say the least. They weren't bad parents. They'd been brought up to work hard to get the most out of life. There was no emotional intimacy shown to me. Luckily, I had the posit. He was always with me. He was my sensei and my mentor. It felt great finally telling this story. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah.